Little Miss Sunshine and Parasite are probably the most clashing films you think of at first glance. But underlying these tonally dissonant movies are analogous messages on social constructs and the concept of the underdog as imbued within the respective families. In Little Miss Sunshine, we gain perspective on a critique of the ideal American family and the idea of losers. In Parasite, we explore the gap between the rich and poor families and their true parasitic natures. Little Miss Sunshine, directed by Valerie Faris and Jonathan Dayton, is a tragic comedy about a family living in New Mexico, a dysfunctional, angry, out of touch one. We have a preachy father, an overwhelmed mother, a suicidal uncle, a drug addict grandfather, an angsty teen, and an innocent daughter. But when the daughter Olive is invited to go to the Little Miss Sunshine pageant in California, the whole family must learn how to survive together in a 3-day road trip in a yellow Volkswagen van, work together as one, and live beyond the social bounds of what we perceive as winners and losers.
Frank, shut up.
Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho, is another tragic comedy, but this time follows two families, the wealthy Parks and the poverty-stricken Kims. The Kims desperately wish to be more successful. This is characterized by the Scholar's Stone gift that represents a life of prosperity, an important motif. As the movie progresses, we see the Kims slowly take over the Park family as servants, parading as highly qualified workers. We see how the two families feed off of one another parasitically. In the end, through a tragedy of events, the Kims are back where they started. Well, two of them are back, and the son Kiwoo fantasizes of a different life, even though it's revealed to us that it's only a dream. Comparative Element 1. Narrative elements and the idea of underdogs in characters, conflicts, and plot. In Little Miss Sunshine, the underdog is manifested in Olive and is based around the ideal female caricature. We see how she has a dream. In the first scene, through a reflection shot, we see Olive watching the new Miss America being crowned on TV. Instead of showing what's on the screen, we establish the dream through her eyes literally. But we see how easily this dream is an unrequited one. She isn't as pretty or glamorous as the other contestants, and her eccentric performance makes her seem like she is probably not going to win. On a broader level, we can see how everyone in the family isn't a quote-unquote winner, and how this idea is extracted from the conflicts and the inability of communication between them. For instance, at the beginning of the film, when all 6 members of the family sit down for dinner, there is tense and uncomfortable conversation about the uncle's suicide attempt.
Question, Frank.
Richard.
Don't answer it.
Richard.
He's not going to answer the question, Frank.
I wanted to kill
Don't listen
myself
to him.
because
Richard.
I was
He's sick.
very
He's a sick
unhappy.
man.
It was established early on that the angsty teen has been taking a vow of silence for 9 months straight and refuses to break it until he gets into the Air Force. Later in the film, when he realizes that he is colorblind and thus unable to achieve his dream, his only way of communicating his sorrow and anger is... In Parasite, the underdog idea is rather simple, represented in the poor family, based around the social economic status and their dream to ascend the social ladder through any means. The Kims live in a tight semi-basement and can't afford their own clothes. We are rooting for them because they don't have the privileges of the richer family and can only fend for themselves. When there are other poor families in need, it's a dog-eat-dog world. We can see how they are given the illusion of victory when they all cleverly take over the richer family. It's playful and ingenious until we reach the second act. And until the rich family remarks about their send. This tonal shift is all because it's revealed to us that the poor family is also leeching off of the rich. This differs from Little Miss Sunshine, even though the American family still struggles financially. In Parasite, we see how capitalism and material elements are the factors that determine social class, are much more directly addressed, and are the main obstacle to their success. In comparison, when put up against Parasite, Little Miss Sunshine holds the more ideological obstacle, a more conceptual underdog where what hinders them is their interconnection as a family. Comparative Element 2, Cinematic Elements, where we analyze the production design and how that emphasizes the phenomena of winners and losers. Little Miss Sunshine takes place in the states of New Mexico to California. This location embodies the yellow and desaturated color palettes, which give off a rather positive, bright tone. Already, we see how this film relaxes more into the comedic side of the genre. Most of the film is set within a Volkswagen van, and the family is confined to one location. The van represents the dysfunction of the family. The gears don't work properly, and the family doesn't tread smoothly along the trip. Like the van, they are falling apart. This directly contrasts with the shots of the long and winding roads to indicate the long and grueling trip ahead of them, the journey they need to travel to learn their lessons. Parasite, on the other hand, takes place in South Korea. The darker, damp, rainy elements forebode a dark and brooding message. Just take a look at these shots versus these. The city is designed in a step fashion that physically manifests the socioeconomic gap between the two families and how it is intrinsic to society, how it can't be changed easily. We always see the poor family walking up to the rich family's house. And during the downpour, we are finally faced with how much the poor family must descend from their richer counterparts, how far apart they really are, how much they need to climb to get to where they want to be. The initial characterization of each family and journey they need to partake in are represented thus so. Comparative element 3, the tragic comedy genre and how this genre is portrayed similarly in both cultures, as in they both try to tackle what's taboo in our respective societies through comedy, but how they also differ climactically, especially when we revisit the ending of the two films and how they present their messages. In Little Miss Sunshine, we see a critique on what society deems as the ideal marriage, man, woman, and the underdog story. It subverts them by juxtaposing it with acceptance, either by yourself or your family. In this manner, Little Miss Sunshine is really a critique on the American dream. It reveals how a blind belief in individualism, mediocrity, and competition has led to a distorted society where people are either winners or losers. The first time the uncle laughs in the movie is when the family works together to get their van rolling again, because the first two gears don't work anymore. This is to show that shared victories allow them to break out of their shells. In the end, we break down the idea of the underdog by presenting a hopeful glimpse into the family's future, that this dysfunctional family has connected over the turmoil of events. Even though reality and the life they're going back to is not picture perfect, they are better people because of what they've been through. There's nothing they can't conquer together. An example is when the grandfather comforts the father. In the movie, he is the antithesis of the father figure, demonstrating not only how self-sabotaging the winner-loser mentality is, but also how winning and losing are not concrete ideas. Rather, doing one's best and supporting one another is and should be the guiding principles of life. When the grandfather dies, we see how his philosophy has impacted the other members of the family. They work together to smuggle his body out of the hospital and also support their daughter on stage, to the horror of the pageant audience and judges. We finally see them talking and connecting over these moments, not arguing or staying mute. In Parasite, by the end, the underdog idea is quickly deconstructed, or, in crude terms, taken a stab at. It's demonstrated that these structures will always be in place. This is not only the case because of how we can't change the infrastructure of the city, but how the son's or Kiwoo's fantasy at the conclusion of the film does nothing to change the socioeconomic inequalities. He merely ascends alone to save his family, but leaves the others behind. The poor feed on the rich, and the rich feed on the poor, a terrifying, unchangeable cycle. Tragic tones are used to represent the brutality and the horror of the underdog mentality. We literally descend into the poor family's home to remind ourselves that reality is often disappointing, and the trek to the top is merely a far-fetched dream. These ideas of capitalism and poverty, though also present in Western media, have a Korean turn on them. We see references to traditional artifacts. Parasite's plot is catalyzed by the gifting of a scholar's stone, a token in East Asian society of specific cultural significance. As referenced earlier, the stone represents the desire to ascend the social ladder. At the moment in the movie when the Kims are indirectly humiliated by the rich, we find the scholar's stone floating on the flood water, as if it were only a fake, symbolizing the illusion of their perceived victory. Ultimately, the treasured pledge is used to seriously maim the son of the Kim family, revealing how the pursuit of their dream has done more harm than good. The scholar's stone motif is directly contrasted with the yellow Volkswagen van that ends up breaking so much the door falls off. But even through this destruction, the open space symbolizes how they are more open to one another. Little Miss Sunshine is quite literally a ball of a sunshine of a film. The bright colors, the optimistic ideas, and a resolution of the conflicts. In Parasite, true human nature is met with devastation, death, and a doomed future. In their own yet similar ways, we see how the two films use the tragic comedy genre to spin ideas of the underdog family on their heads and societal expectations. Ultimately, what shines through is how different films from different geographical contexts can reveal so much about human nature and relationships, giving us these stories of ambition and dreams.